Once again, I was right. Back during the election cycle, I said that California was going to flip to Trump. I still believe that happened. The reason we don't know if it happened or not, it's not one of those states that anybody decided to look at to mount any type of real effort to do a recount to examine if there was any voter fraud that took place. Now, again, for me, it was more of a gut instinct than looking at an analytical viewpoint of the voting data there. Other than to say this, California for years, decades, was actually a fairly Republican state. Now, we wouldn't necessarily refer to it as a rib rock conservative state, but it was a traditional Republican state for many, many years. And Ronald Reagan easily carried the state of California. California has had a host of Republican governors. Now, we understand there has been a seismic ideological shift, and that has to do with places like San Francisco, Hollywood, and of course, Los Angeles. And we understand that there is a liberal grip on those locations, and it basically then dominates and controls the rest of the state. People in New York can understand, and they can relate. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I grew up in New York. I was born in New York. I was raised in New York. I lived and pastored in upstate New York. And I can tell you that the vast span of the state of New York is pretty conservative. If you actually look at an electoral map of the state of New York, the only blue speck on the electoral map for New York is New York City, obviously, and in the Buffalo area. But even in 2016, Donald Trump took that western part of New York, and he took the vast majority of central and most of New York, other than Manhattan. And again, well, there's more people that live there. Yeah. There's also a greater opportunity for the Democratic machine to go to work, and we know how the Democratic machines operate in large metropolitan cities. Don't we, Atlanta? Don't we, Philadelphia? That said, same is true in California. You get up into Northern California, you get into the wine country, you get into, the farmland areas of California and into a lot of the moderate suburbs, etc. You'll find people are pretty much conservative to middle of the road. They're not way out in left lib loon land. But yet, the libs have managed to take a stronghold, a chokehold of California, and they run Sacramento, the state capital. But I said there was something going on this last election cycle, and there was a perfect storm brewing. You had Governor Gavin Newsom, who was, he had declared his state a sanctuary state. Well, law-abiding citizens are not into that. He had basically at one point said that the President of the United States, then Donald J. Trump, was not even allowed or welcome in his state. That kind of borderlines on treason. And we know that California, they do have an immigration issue, and don't think that the legal immigrants that are there aren't a little bit upset that they came in the right way, earned their way in, and then they have to watch people just be welcomed in and given everything. And then in the major metropolitan areas, you even have liberals upset over the fact that everywhere they look in beautiful cities like San Francisco, there is just homelessness and crime and human feces all over the sidewalks. These places like third world toilets. It's exactly what Democrat politics have done to California. Not to mention, there is a mass exodus of people and a mass exodus of jobs. Over 1 million jobs have fled California. Another million plus have left New York. I'm telling you that Gavin Newsom, Andrew Cuomo are in huge political trouble. The difference is Cuomo doesn't have to worry about a recall, and he is counting on his mafia persona of being just a bully, that he will be able to bully the libs in the state that have the money to keep him in office if he decides that he wants a re-gig, a re-up. He wants to continue being the governor. Newsom, on the other hand, is in big trouble. And that perfect storm brewing was the Newsom policies that people are upset about, and especially cherry on the sundae has been his response to COVID. These draconian lockdowns, while he is seen out eating in restaurants that are closed to the general public. You know, this whole do as I say, not as I do. Rules are for thee, but not for me. He became the poster child, the face of that ruling oligarch, that ruling elite, that basically they live above the rules. Life is completely normal for them. While they want to make you wear one mask, now they're talking about 2 masks. Fauci and the CDC are really thinking, yeah, 2 masks, that might be the way to go. Eventually it'll be 3. Hey, just so our mouths close completely and plug the nostrils so that we can't breathe at all, and then we'll die, and we don't have to worry about getting COVID then because we'll be dead. And people are waking up, and even Democrats in these places are looking around thinking, okay, we've had how many years of Democratic liberal control, and what have we got to show for it? Why, one of the crowning achievements, pardon the pun, of the Newsom administration was the Crown Act.
Those that take the time and think about it, those that take the time to educate themselves about it, I think will conclude what the legislature concluded, what Molly Mitchell, Senator Mitchell concluded some time back, that this law is long overdue. I, like millions and millions of Americans, was brought to a consciousness around this issue last year when a young man by the name of Andrew Johnson, a wrestler, 16 years old in New Jersey, went to the mat and was ready to enter into competition, and at the mat was asked by the referee to either submit, forfeit his match, or to cut off his dreadlocks. His dignity being exposed, his decision whether or not to lose an athletic competition or lose his identity came into, I think, stark terms for millions of Americans.
Pandering. That's just absolute pandering. Seriously. He became aware of what an important issue this was. No. This is what he's counting on to keep him in office. Talking about going to give reparations. Now, you know, he was the first governor to sign into law the Crown Act. 7 other states have now followed suit. And if you look at the word crown, it's talking about there should not be discrimination against black people or anyone over, quote, natural hair. Emphasis on the word natural hair. I can't even believe we have to talk about this, but we do. And he cites this case of a young man getting ready to wrestle in the state of California, and he was told by a referee that he was either going to have to forfeit or right there on the spot cut his dreadlocks off. And how shameful that was for him, and that prejudice coming down on him. How about safety? Something that you don't want another wrestler to pull on. This idea that if we have any type of dress code in corporate America, if we have a school dress code, that somehow that's discriminatory, it's racist. Ask the military about hair dress codes. Ask the military if he'd be able to keep those locks and still be a Marine, still be a sailor, still be in the Air Force, still be a soldier. To say that we're going to have some type of standards, as long as they're equally applied. I was a school administrator for over 25 years. Every school I was the administrator of, we had a handbook and a dress code. And I can tell you, yes, we had rules about hairstyles, and a lot of them, it wasn't, quote, we weren't singling out any race over another race. In fact, I can tell you that the vast majority of my white students weren't really crazy about some of the rules, because we had a rule across the board, whether you're white, black, Male, female, number one, your hair could not be an unnatural color. That means you couldn't have pink hair, lime green hair. You couldn't. Your hair couldn't glow in the dark. No, no, nay, nay. You couldn't have wild spiked hair. You couldn't have a mohawk. You couldn't. You couldn't have it shaved or just a swastika left in the center of your forehead. We had rules. If you were a guy, you couldn't be a long-haired hippie. Sorry, we had rules about that, and that wasn't about race and it wasn't about gender. It was about teaching some level of appropriateness. And this governor and everything that's going wrong in his state, where they are absolutely bankrupt, he's worrying about hair. He's got businesses that he has destroyed through his lockdowns, and he is placating to hair. And again, dreadlocks are not natural hair. You have to go to a stylist to have that done. Your hair doesn't just grow that way. Now, I agree that there was a time in our history where there were black people who felt that in order to get ahead, especially in the entertainment business, they had to have their hair straightened out, flattened out, and they went to excruciating pain to have that done to them. And that was little poison they were spreading into their hair to thin it out. And that's wrong. But this law I'm talking about, women standing there that got these big weaves and they're talking about time a governor understands that this is who I am. This is my natural look. No. You add that sewn to your head. It's not natural. Emphasis on the word natural. It means what your hair naturally does. You know why I did this? Because my hair was naturally saying goodbye, see ya. And I got tired, to be honest, of just combing a horseshoe. So one day I sat in the barber's chair in Titusville, Florida and said, take it all off. I just want it gone. There's no point in this. Now, for a month or so, I looked ridiculous because I had this big, untanned white patch around my head. Looked like I had just come from brain surgery or something. But it all evened out, and I've gotten to where, hey, this is a great look to maintain. I don't have to comb it. I don't have to look in a mirror, see what my hair looks like. It's awesome. But I didn't need a law enacted for this. And so this is his big crowning accomplishment. I don't mean to waste all this time on this issue, but this is the illustration of what is the problem with Gavin Newsom in California. This is the stuff that ad nauseum they waste time on. And then telling restaurants they can't have indoor dining and telling churches they can't gather to worship and all of this COVID hogwash. And I said back during the election, I said that the majority of liberals who live there don't want to live like this. They want to be able to walk their $1,500 pedigreed dog and stop at their favorite cafe and sip a latte and discuss whatever it is that they discuss. And they want to do all that freely. They want to be able to take a stroll on the beach. That's why you move there. People were being ticketed and arrested for sitting in their cars on their lunch break just to be able to relax a little bit and eat in their car and watch the waves at the beach. And they were being arrested for being at the beach even though they weren't actually on the beach. That is the level of stupidity going on in California. And Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles is in this up to his eyeballs with Newsom. And the people have had it. When you see 5,000 people have a Trump rally without Donald Trump there, marching down Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills with Trump flags, baby, that lets you know that there were even Democrats among those people. I'm telling you, if they look into this, Trump carried California. That said, there's now a recall. You have to have 1.5 million signatures on a petition for a recall to go into effect. Well, the Recall Gavin Newsom movement has now garnered 1.3 million. 1.3 million. And they're shooting for 1.8 million because they know that there will be all kinds of manipulation that goes on and that some of their signatures will get discredited and thrown out. So they want to make sure that they have more than 1.5 million. Let me encourage you, if you live in California, sign that petition. Well, apparently the former mayor of San Diego believes that of Sacramento believes that this is it. And now he's throwing his hat in the ring and going to challenge Governor Newsom in a recall election.
Standing in front of Cabrillo Elementary with the school bus next to him, former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer wanted to highlight what he describes the ineffective leadership of Governor Gavin Newsom.
The world used to look to California for a brighter future, but now we can't even keep the lights on. It's become the land of broken promises, and the promise breaker in chief is Gavin Newsom.
Faulconer kicked off his campaign to become California's governor with a news conference in LA Tuesday morning. This as the movement to recall Governor Newsom moves forward.
Yeah, and Biden got 80 million votes. Bull hot. There was no ground support, no real grassroots support for Biden. The whole thing is a fraud. It is a sham. Donald Trump, it was an absolute landslide, an astronomical landslide, even bigger than the Reagan-Bush landslide of their second election when they even carried New York. And so that's why you have this never-ending impeachment. They not only want to crush this man, destroy his legacy, and keep him from ever running again, they don't want anyone to ever think that that idea of Trumpism and what he did to really restore and rebuild America, that can never gain traction again. You have to be convinced that this incredible victory was a colossal loss. That's what's going on. So how do we do this? How do we turn this thing around? Pastor Marty, it's simple. One state at a time. You know that right now the liberals are licking their chops thinking they're going to flip Georgia. Let's flip California. All those people leaving California to go here, to go there, to flip those states, let's flip California. And I know some of you get nervous when you start thinking about what about all these people leaving New York and going to Florida, and they're gonna end up flipping Florida. So let's flip New York. See, sometimes you have to learn how to flip the script, and it can be really easy to turn on the news right now and see all these things and the fawning that they give Joe Biden, and now we're finding out that his press secretary, who is gut-wrenchingly awful, by the way, she's constantly having to circle back. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. Would any of Trump's press secretaries ever been able to say that every day? And she's only been on the job like a week and a half. Now we're finding out she's actually given the questions ahead of time, and she gets to screen which one she's going to deal with. Would the Trump White House have been given that same courtesy? No. This whole thing is a sham, and it is a show. And it doesn't matter how much they deplatform us. It doesn't matter how much they fact check us. The truth, all right, scripture time. Truth crushed to earth will always rise again. What does that mean? It means you can hide the truth, but you can't erase the truth. And the truth will always, always come out in the end. So here's what we have to do. We have to start flipping states. We need to start targeting the states that the Democrats think they got a lock on. Target New York, target California. Recall Newsom. Make it a prime target. Well, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. Smack the bell and click the word all to get notification of my next rant.